All right, so let's just get started. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about kind of who we are, what we do, and who we aren't and what we don't do. So this is the dream team, or the unfair advantage, whatever you want to call it. 3 co-founders. We all came out of a previous company together where we were doing web and mobile software development for a few years. We were able to sell that company and got to the end of last year and had kind of a thought for doing something new, and I'll tell you kind of how that got going in a minute. But we're all currently in Cincinnati, like I said, and looking to build the team out and add some more amazing people. So the Pebble journey for me started actually last Christmas. Every time my wife complains that I'm on the road or haven't been home in a couple weeks, I tell her it's her fault because she bought me a Pebble for Christmas. And my curiosity got the best of me. I had to start hacking on it. And I started having a lot of thoughts about like how kind of the next wave of the web, Steve Case calls it the third wave, the Web 3.0, whatever, the next technological revolution, and how wearables are a huge part of that, how we could build something that would, at this moment, which is kind of the genesis of that, serve the dev community, create an impact on wearables and IoT, and allow us to just really do what we do best, which is build cool stuff. But we kind of backburned it for a while, for a couple months. Just didn't really have enough of a, I think, vision established or whiteboarded, and just kind of had some other things going on. So we backburned it for a couple months, but the thought wouldn't leave. So in March, we got together and started whiteboarding ideas for what would be Strap Metrics, so an analytics platform for developers. So that's when we hit the go button, started working on an MVP for all the pieces that have to go into an analytics platform. So the back-end stuff, doing MapReduce, the APIs, the dashboard, which we built in Meteor.js, and then starting to add support for platforms. And Pebble was the first, obviously, that came to mind, had the most kind of robust dev community and the best participation, and we felt like we could have a splash there and add impact to the community, and so that's what we did. At the same time, we thought, we could make this a real company. Like a lot of the things that we were thinking about doing, we thought we could really build this out and do some cool stuff. And so we started applying to several startup accelerator programs. Applied here, which I think a lot of people do. Getting in is another story. Applied to Techstars. Applied to Alpha Lab in Pittsburgh and the Brandery in Cincinnati. So all kind of top 10 programs. And we actually got accepted into Alpha Lab in Pittsburgh and the Brandery in Cincinnati, and we decided the Brandery is a good fit for us. We like the people, we like the city, and they were interested in helping us grow the company no matter where we were going to be. So we landed in Cincinnati. And if any of you have like startups that you're wanting to do and kind of want to go down that road but don't really know if you can have the firepower to do it, I recommend the accelerator experience. It's hard work. It's 18 hours a day for 3 to 4 months typically in a program, but if you are thinking about going that route, I highly recommend it. So while we're there, we added support for companion applications, so iOS and Android apps for Pebble. And in September, we hit 150 devs on the platform, so that was a pretty cool milestone, and we're looking to double that in the next few weeks as we add additional features and support for Pebble.js. So a few questions that we get kind of periodically are usually in the philosophical and in the technical kind of overarching themes. So, and these are great questions, and we have had a lot of debates internally about kind of the best way to handle things like data. Whose data is it, and what do we do with the data? And then a lot of times developers ask us, like, how are you going to make money? Like, we're sending you all this data, and you're letting us use it for free, so obviously there's got to be some game on the other end, right? And then, what are the battery impacts that Strap create to your application, and what are the memory impacts? So let's just kind of step through those. So first of all, you own the data. It's in our terms of service. You can go read it, but that it's clearly spelled out there that you own all the data that you send to Strap with your user account. And we are not selling the data, so that's not our revenue model. Our revenue model is with enterprise applications and with pro features in the platform. So right now, everything you see in Strap Metrics is free, and will continue to be free in its current state. But we will be adding additional features later that you'll be able to basically do a pay-as-you-go model as those things roll out. But for right now, you can get a lot of great data points for free. And then we're working on some enterprise opportunities with retailers and other kind of verticals out there that are interested in the wearable space. We actually just inked a deal with a Fortune 500 retailer who wants to create wearable applications across platform, and they also want to integrate wearables with kind of their existing rewards card experience for their shoppers. So those are big opportunities for us. Those are how we keep the lights on and keep pushing the train forward, and then we can create awesome tools for the dev community that don't cost anything. On the battery life, so I don't have good scientific hard numbers on this, although the presentation this morning will definitely be helpful as we continue to talk and continue to chat with Stuart about how we can figure out exact quantitative metrics on battery life. But the short answer is it depends. It depends on how many events you're sending over Strap, and then how often that app is being used. So we have more testing to do. We have more tweaking to do to get there. But having more of you testing the platform and giving us feedback helps with that significantly. And the memory impact isn't bad. It can be better, but with accelerometer collection, which I'll tell you why we do that in a minute, it's about 3.5K, and then if you turn that feature off, it actually drops it by half. So hopefully this weekend I'll get a chance to plug in with some of the engineers at Pebble to make that even better. Any questions about any of this?
Sorry, earlier when you said 150 devs, you meant like that are using your platform?
That have created accounts.
Okay. Can you repeat the question, otherwise we won't get there?
Sure. The question was how out of that 150 are they using the platform? And those 150 have created accounts on the platform. All right, so Strap Metrics report, reports a lot of different data points about kind of your application and its users. So we tell you, how many unique users, which country, region, and city they come from, which devices they're using. So we get both wearable user and HTTP user agent. So that's usually the phone or whatever host device it's connected to. We also do session information, so number of unique sessions, how long the sessions last on average, what time of day users are most likely to use your app, and then also most of those metrics are plottable over time by day right now. And then we also do activity info, and this is one of those kind of differentiating factors with other analytics tools that are out there. So we periodically collect samples of accelerometer data and send that to our API. And what we do on the back end is classification of that data to determine what users are most likely doing while they're using your app. So I'll show you a dashboard example in a minute, but basically you can see, like half of my users are driving or jogging or standing or sitting while they're using my app. So useful to some people, maybe not, but you can probably be creative and think of cool ways that data could be correlated with other data to tell you a good story about your users. So things that are coming soon that we're really excited about. So we'll be sending up data from some of the new stuff that came in 2.6, I believe, the firmware info, the color, the model, and also more granular battery reports. So the ability to see what kind of drain your application has. Again, hope to work close with Stuart on some of the some of the lessons they've learned with the battery life stuff. And then we're working really hard on a good way to do crash reports for your apps. So you'd be able to see in the dashboard when your Pebble app is crashing. There are some challenges there, obviously, like not being able to send anything out kind of after an app has crashed, but we're coming up with some creative ways to hopefully work around that. And then coming soon is our other product, Strap Kit. And the idea with Strap Kit is You can write in pure JavaScript and create wearable applications for multiple platforms. We'll be starting with Pebble and Android Wear this fall. We'll also add native library helpers in there. So if you don't want to write in pure JavaScript or want to get around some of the limitations that may exist there, we're going to create helper libraries, things like gesture recognition that you can build right into your application. So if you want to quickly do that without having to do the heavy lifting of those recognitions, we'll have those features in the kit. And most exciting, probably most challenging, we're actually going to do a cross-platform simulator for watch apps. So we'll have all these platforms: Pebble, Wear, Tizen, eventually Apple Watch, but starting with Pebble, obviously. All right, so let's just do some demos, jump into some code. Okay, so first let's just create an app in the dashboard. So I created an account here earlier. It's really simple. We don't ask for a lot of information, just name, email, password, check the box, and you're in. And what you can do is, from any of the app management screens, is this working okay?
You should switch to 1024 because otherwise
It flickers.
video projector flickers.
Dashboard's not going to look great in 1024. All right, bear with the lack of responsiveness right now. All right, let's create an app. All right, so after you create your app, or anytime you log into the dashboard after you've created your app and we have not seen any data come from that app yet, we'll give you kind of a quick way to drill down. So if you just want to do the test drive, you can do that, and that'll show you what the dashboard would look like if you had data coming in. And you click Install Now, you just basically walks you through picking your platform, and then you basically end up at the Quick Start Guide, which is in GitHub. So that is how you create an app, and what we need is this app ID and a few code snippets in our existing Pebble app, and we'll be good to go. So let's look at one that I've got here. So this is the Strap Face app, which is basically the simple watch face with some click handlers and strap built in. So what you have to do first is just include the strap header, the top of your file, and then you will basically do an init and a deinit function for straps. So here in your existing kind of handle init function, you just run strap init, and we do have to have app message open so that your watch app can send data, obviously, to the phone using that in the PebbleKit.js. And then in the deinit function, you'll do strap deinit. So pretty straightforward stuff there. Once you do that, you'll be able to do strap log action and send basically a string to log that event taking place. That's pretty much the basics of it. So it's really simple to get going. And if we actually, let me do this. So I just created this app. I'm going to grab this app ID. And that is actually on the JS side. I almost left out the JS part. We, on the GitHub Quick Start, also have this kind of minified API snippet that you just paste at the top of your app.js file. And then you come in here and paste your app ID into our app message event handler. And we will pretty much do the rest to determine if the app messages that are coming are strap or if they're not strap. So from there, I should be in the right directory. All right, so this is the strap face. And all those events were just button click handlers, right? So if I push a few, clear this modal, and just go to the debugger view, you can see those are already starting to pop in. And so the action URL on this end is up, and I get all of the data from the API, like which country. Since this is a local host, I don't get, well, that's odd. The GeoIP, I think, failed on that one. We use GeoIP to determine the region, city, that kind of stuff. Now, the overview page will not start to show data right away. So our processes run approximately every 10 minutes and take about 2 minutes to kind of process the latest data and show that in a good format. But actually, it was testing one earlier, a few hours ago, and got some good data to come in from a couple of apps. So you get things like the action. You can change the primary dimension here from events to users to sessions, and get how many times certain events were done in certain time periods, which activities are API most likely determined during that period, where people are coming from, and again, that was unknown. But then this is kind of the cool part with the activity reports, is that a third of the time that I was using this app during that brief period, I was most likely standing. All right, so we have time for one more example, quickly? Okay. So we recently added support for Pebble.js, which a few people asked about. And that's not actually on GitHub yet, but it will be by the end of the weekend. And it's pure JavaScript logging to our API, and it uses the accelerometer piece that's in Pebble.js as well. So right now, again, you have to just kind of paste this API handler at the top. But we hope to improve that where we would actually do like some exports, and you could just include a separate file and just require that code. So it would be a little bit cleaner. And there's some cleanup that needs to be done on the Pebble.js portion of the code. But it's pretty straightforward. You call a couple functions, strap API init, strap API clone, and then you basically log events this way. So you set params for the action URL, and then send a log, and that will, again, push data to the dashboard. So, yeah, so those are kind of the main examples. We also have support for companion apps. So we have iOS and Android support, and the idea there is instead of what we did in your JS to include like the app message handler, we have similar code and a library that you include in your Objective-C or your Java app to make sure the data passes through the native code there. So that's pretty much all I've got. Any questions or thoughts? Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed the beginning of this, but any kinds of interesting insights you've gotten from some of your users that they were surprised by looking at their own analytics?
Yeah, so the What 3 Words app is one that was one of the first ones to integrate, and they were just amazed by how many different countries, people from different countries were using their app. So they had like, I think over 30 different unique countries that came to their application, which was kind of cool. And so just being able to, I don't know, I don't think they had thought that, there was that much international reach with Pebble, right? And people who were interested in their platform kind of from around the world. So that's been a cool one.
Two questions. One, why do you use the slash there when you're doing your action URL?
So the question is, why do you need the slash in front of the action URL? So we decided to go with kind of a URI format as the recommended way to do it. It's not required, but the idea is that down the road, as we add more features, to be able to go in and drill down to the data, we'd be able to smartly kind of separate those out and then allow you to kind of breadcrumb into different categories. So the recommendation is to do like a category and then like an event within that category.
I see.
Yeah.
And then, what's to prevent someone from like digging in a PBW and finding the app ID, putting in their JavaScript, and sending false analytics to their app?
That's a great question. So the app ID right now is kind of the only token that we use to verify events. So we're thinking about ways to do it where it's more secondary factor, I guess. Yeah, right now somebody could potentially send bogus data, but that's pretty much the same for any analytics platform, right?
What happens if there's no internet connection? Do you catch anything, or is it happening?
Yeah, right now it just doesn't get sent. Sorry, the question was, what happens if there's no internet connection on the device? And right now, we just for safety and kind of least common denominator, we don't do anything. But we are planning on doing batching in our next release, which will also aid battery life significantly so that we're not sending events every time that they're triggered. So that would probably be a feature of that as well.
Does this mean that at some point, I don't know if this is more a question for Pebble, but something like this, is that going to change the end user license agreement? The fact that when I download an app, all of a sudden what I'm doing is being tracked in some way?
That's a great question. That probably is a good question for Thomas. The question was, does this affect the end user license agreement?
Thanks for repeating the question.
Sorry.
No, thanks. Thank you very much. In the near future, we're going to ask that all the apps include a privacy policy, just like they do on the App Store on Google Play, because that's the best way to communicate to user what you're doing with their data. And as long as you describe what you're doing in the privacy policy, then it will be okay with us. But we are going to make sure that you are clear to your users on what type of data you're transferring. And as long as the data is anonymized like it's here, it's not necessarily a huge deal, but we're more worried about tracking users individually and name information and things like that.
So then, does that mean, like, are you going to let us create, I don't have any legal experience, so can a privacy policy just be like, yeah, we're going to track this and that, or does it have to be like an actual, like, fully written thing?
Is there a way you could provide templates?
Yeah.
Maybe, for like a default
Yeah, so
So
the question is, are we going to provide a template privacy policy, and maybe also are we going to have to hire a lawyer to write our privacy policy? The answer is hopefully no. Privacy policies are actually pretty simple. I don't think there are lots of good templates on the web, but that's definitely something that's changing because more and more people are doing it. Basically, you need to tell users what types of data you're collecting, why you're collecting this data, how you're using the data, and what types of processing you're using, and what rights the user have on the data. So how they can contact you to remove their data and things like that. So as long as you cover that, that will be enough, and having template is a great idea. And I'm sure Strap will provide a template for Strap users.
That's right.
Thomas, I just want to let you know that my users are really looking forward to reading privacy policies on their watches.
So the comment is users are looking forward to reading privacy policy on watches, and of course they will not read it on the watch, but on the App Store when they install the app, as all the other information that come with the app, yeah.
Yeah, so that's something I thought about, is building basically a quick helper for you to build that into your application. Just show of hands, how many people would be interested in having that as an option? Okay. All right. Yeah, so basically a quick menu, first launch maybe, and just remember that preference. Okay.
Do you have any additional information about the upcoming Strap kit?
Yes, not really like anything that we're pushing out yet, but do you have any specific questions about it?
Mostly implementation details.
Okay.
So how you tackle
Sure.
JavaScript execution, and then also how do you deal with images, things like that?
Yeah, so I'll tell you that I haven't been very hands-on with the development of that portion. So quick backstory, when we started looking at doing Strap Kit back in, I guess May, June, somewhere in there, and we started kind of outlining what an API could look like and really how we would make JavaScript work directly with a Pebble. And then the JSConf announcement happened with Pebble.js, and it was like, this is awesome, because it was laid out exactly almost how we were envisioning laying it out. So we hope to basically take a lot of the lessons that are learned in Pebble.js and use a lot of that underlying, and then try to basically build on top of it and make it better. And we'd love to work with Pebble to do that, or work with people that are on that community working on it. So it's challenging though. So.
What's its current state?
So currently we have it where basically you can crank off a new app with Strap Kit. It will include strap metrics automatically, so it's kind of a one command thing to build a new Strap Kit project. And then it uses basically Pebble.js under the covers to generate an app. But then we're also building the Android Wear version as well that compiles down to Android. So we don't want to release anything until we have both, at least 2 platforms, because we think that's where the value is for people that want to create cross-platform apps, right? So the goal is not to compete with Pebble.js, it's just to build another layer on top of it and add value to it. Any other questions? Again, okay.
You had a session metric up there earlier. How flexible is your definition of a session? Like in mobile apps, you can be in and out and stuff like that. So is it like a kind of a 15-minute period, or is it literally every time you start and stop?
Yeah, so we do that on the server side, and we calculate basically the last strap start event. I think we do it within a half-hour window. The question was, how flexible is the session timing? Sorry. And again, if you need help, like plugging in, or you just want someone to come hands-on, help you plug in strap metrics, it's pretty simple, but we've done it 100 times, so happy to do it and happy to give you a t-shirt. Thanks.